naked. I guess that's why his ass is covered. If I had 200 naked old men running at me, I'd cover my ass with cardboard too. Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Booze, Bullshit, and B-Movies. We're happy to have you with us again as we dive to the depths of the streaming services to find entertainment in unlikely places. I'm Brandon. And I'm joined once again by my buddy Steve.
Hello, everybody.
This week, we're going to continue with our tour of the Arctic Circle for our Christmas Spectacular. This time, we're going to hop a couple borders to the east and watch Rare Exports, a movie filmed in Finland with an interesting Santa Claus-based mythology. So, Steve, what can you tell us about the movie?
Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale. So this is a film released December of 2010. It's got a running time of an hour and 24 minutes, so right there in our sweet spot of 90 minutes or less. This one's got a bit bigger budget than what we're used to on this podcast, so it's just under $2 million budget. Had a pretty decent return on the box office for some limited release, although if I were the producers, I wouldn't be banking on the U.S. returns with an opening weekend of $9,000. Not so hot there. U.S. and Canada, about $230,000 total, and just over $4 million in worldwide box offices.
Well, this one is recorded in English, though, right?
I think so. I think it's predominantly English. I believe there are some. I think it lists both in there, and I think in the trailer there was some mixing, but it was predominantly English, if I remember correctly. So hopefully, we've done a fair amount of subtitle reading here in the last couple weeks. Genre, again, we're in our kind of fantasy horror adventure. This one was directed by Jalmari Helander. He's got some TV credits, a couple of shorts, which we'll talk about here in a minute, and 3 feature lengths, including Sisu, which I believe you and I watched that a couple months ago.
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one with the guy who was defending his gold from the Nazis.
Correct. I couldn't remember if I watched that one by myself or we watched that together. So that was a pretty good movie.
It was.
And Joe Murray, he wrote this with his brother. I have no idea how to say his name. It's Juuso. So Juuso. Helander. We'll just call them the Helander brothers. And then a dude named Petri Jokarenta, who was listed as a producer. So, but I think Joe Murray did most of the writing on this bad boy. Stars must be Jorma, as we are, or Jarma Tomilia. I'm horrible with these names. We need some American names coming up here soon. He is Rauno Contito. He's our main character. You'll remember him from Sisu. He was the gold miner in Sisu.
Really?
So yeah. So we've seen him before. He's pretty good. And then Oni Tomiya plays Patari, and it's Rano's son, and those two are actual in real life are father and sons.
That's cool.
The two actors. So then we have Peter Jacobi as Patari's elf. He's got 100 plus acting credits, none of which I'd ever heard of. Then we've got Tomi Corpella as Amio. He's got another guy with 100 plus, but we haven't seen it. Then we've got Rauno Jovenen, Risto Salami. He is the sheriff, and I'm going to say I only put it on here because the last few of these Nordic movies we've seen, the sheriff has been a pretty funny character. So let's go. I just wanted to give Risto a little shout out there. And then the Jonathan Hutchins is Brian Greene, who is the ubiquitous evil American.
Well, see, there's an American name for you.
Yeah, so that one's pretty easy. Tagline on this one was, "This Christmas, everyone will believe in Santa Claus." Now, Brandon, you did a little research on kind of the geography and history of this area where it was filmed in Norway. So what do you got to tell us about an area a couple hundred miles north of the Arctic Circle?
Well, like you just mentioned, this is another movie that takes place above the Arctic Circle in northern Finland in the Korva Mountains near the border of Finland and Russia. The area is home to an indigenous people called the Sami, whose home actually stretches through parts of Norway, Sweden, Finland, and into Russia. Now, in this story, a research team, probably filled with a bunch of evil geologists, believe they have found a Sami burial site in the mountains and want to exploit whatever artifacts they may find.
So, that's a common misconception there. People really, they confuse geologists with archaeologists. Those are the evil guys.
So the foundation of this movie is similar to kind of your standard ancient native burial ground thing that you might find in Poltergeist or something else.
So Indiana Jones.
The ancient spirit in this case is the Joulopukki, a Father Christmas type character from various pagan traditions. In addition to being home to massive pine forests and hundreds of thousands of reindeer, the Korva Mountains is where the original Father Christmas is thought to have lived. So Joulopukki literally translates to the Yule goat. And as these things tend to go in various Germanic traditions, whether it's Krampus or Knecht Ruprecht, there are other related characters that aren't so nice as your Santa Claus figure.
Well, there's got to be a yin for every yang.
In this case, these are the Nuutipukki. These guys may come to your house looking for an offering of food or alcohol rather than dropping off gifts.
So it's like when you come to my house.
Basically, yeah. The only difference is that if you don't meet the Nuutipukki's demands, you're punished. So without getting too far into Viking history, these characters were part of festivities in the 12th century related to St. Canute's Day and another holiday or two that ended up kind of being meshed together, co-opted by the Christian church and changed into something else. Now this movie is sort of playing on how those two creatures, the Joulopukki and the Nuutipukki, are related, and maybe they're two sides of the same coin.
I'm going to think of the Nuutipukki as the Naughty Pookie.
That is kind of how it is.
Yeah.
St. Canute's Day is celebrated as a holiday at the end of the Christmas season in parts of Sweden, Finland, and Estonia. It's 20 days after Christmas, January 13th, and it marks the end of the holiday season. I believe this holiday is also celebrated by our HOA, because if you have your holiday decorations up on January 13th, they will send you a letter demanding you take that shit down.
Yep, they do not follow the Denver tradition of you can't leave your lights up until the stock show is done.
So another interesting fact that I learned about researching this movie is that our current modern conception of Christmas, the happy fat guy in the red suit, is actually also created by a Finnish guy. So the original artwork for what we call the Coca-Cola Santa was done by Haddon Sundblom, whose family comes from the Åland Islands, where these Nuutipukki traditions are especially prevalent. So with all that in mind, if you ask a Finnish person, they will tell you with 100% certainty that Santa is from Finland.
Well, la-di-da, good for them.
And if you're looking for an interesting Christmas vacation, there's also a cool-looking Santa's village about 300 kilometers away in Rovaniemi, Finland, where the Joulopukki is claimed to have taken up residence. At least there's an airport, and it's easier for tourists to get to than the mountains.
I don't know if you found it in your research there, but the town, Tromsø, Norway, that they filmed this in, actually served as the government for Norway right after the initial German invasion in World War II.
I didn't know that.
Until the Germans finished them off. That's where they were holding out at the beginning of the war, at least. The Heelanders, they made 2 shorts. So remember, I mentioned that earlier. And the shorts were about the Rare Exports Company. So the first one was in 2003, and it was just a little 7-minute short called Rare Exports Inc. And it follows the tracking, capture, training, and shipping of, quote-unquote, the original Finnish Father Christmases to over 130 countries around the world. It's done pretty cleverly. It looks like kind of a nature show. You can kind of hear Marlon Perkins or somebody in the background saying, here we see them stalking the most elusive prey in the world, and blah, blah, blah. And,
sounds cool.
They've got a sniper going, and it's like, he looks through his scope, and he's so astonished to see his quarry that he's got to just kind of look away and just kind of my destiny. And then he shoots a tranq dart into this naked fat guy, and they chase him around, and then they scrub him and train him and teach him to not eat the children that are sitting on his lap, dress him as your traditional Santa Claus, put him in a cage, ship him out someplace.
And he is in your mall right now.
Correct. They followed that up in 2005 with a 10-minute short called Rare Exports, the Official Safety Instructions. So the purpose of this is, it as you would think, it's a safety video on the proper handling of Father Christmases during the training and transport phase after last year's, again, quote-unquote, unfortunate incident. Here they lay out the rules of how to be a trainer and a handler and just an employee of the Rare Exports company. No loud or obnoxious noises, no drinking or cursing, and definitely no smoking. Father Christmases have a no-tolerance policy for that. If you do all these things, Father Christmas, he's going to lose his shit and go into a blinding rage that prevents him from even differentiating, who's been naughty and who's been nice. Don't do it.
Well, yeah, you don't want to get those
bad things happen. And I thought that was kind of interesting because it kind of goes with our barn elf rules that we learned last week.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very similar. And then Yamari was planning to make a third short in this series, but then somebody, I'm sure there was alcohol involved, talked him into, you know what, we should raise some money and make a real movie about this. That's where we get Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale.
Yeah, well, good idea.
So another couple little fun facts. Brian Green, the American in there, his passport number is 314159265, which are the first few digits of pi. Kind of clever there. So an interview with Yomari, he's kind of wacky. And he says he thinks we should listen to children more because they're more perceptive than adults.
It's possible.
I don't think he has any children, but he hasn't had to deal with them at least.
I know a lot of adults are pretty full of shit, though.
Well, that is true. And they said that this is one of Cate Blanchett's favorite films.
Well, hopefully we like it too.
Yeah, there we go. So we had a couple reviews pulled up. A fiendishly entertaining Christmas yarn rooted in Northern European legend and lore, complete with a not-so-jolly old St. Nick, informed more by the Brothers Grimm than Norman Rockwell, says Michael Rexstaffen from The Hollywood Reporter. It isn't recommended for impressionable children who might well experience nightmares, but for grown-ups looking for an alternative to the annual onslaught of ho-ho-ho Christmas tales, this visually pleasing oddity is just the thing, even if it does slow down in the middle portion before picking up again. That's from V.A. Musetto from the New York Post. Then Finnish filmmaker Yomari Helander's dark comic expansion on his cult internet shorts, in which he crafts a backstory for Santa that's as black as stalking coal, from Tom Russo of the Boston Globe. And this was just from some dude who posted on Rotten Tomatoes saying, really good Finnish movie. You should watch this because it is really good wintertime movie.
Oh, perfect.
That's exactly how it was written. And that's from Oni Heinonen. I'm thinking he may be related to one of the Helanders, but never, you never know. And then we'll finish on our buddy Roger Ebert from the Chicago Sun-Times, who says, Rare Exports A Christmas Tale is a rather brilliant lump of coal for your stocking hung by the fireside with care.
All right.
I think that's as close to a thumbs up as you're going to get from Roger for one of these bad boys.
Sounds about right.
Tell us about the plot there, Brandon.
In a short little synopsis here, we've got a young boy named Pitari and his friend Huso, who think that a secret mountain drilling project near their home has uncovered the tomb of the real Santa Claus. However, this is a monstrous, evil Santa Claus, unlike the cheery St. Nick of legend. When Pitari's father captures a feral old man in his wolf trap, the man may hold the key to why reindeer are being slaughtered and children are disappearing.
That sounds like some interesting flick to me. It's on AMC+, Fandor, Peacock, Pluto, Tubi, and if you want to pay for it, Prime Video. You got plenty of options out there to watch it.
Sounds good. Why don't we go grab a drink and turn this thing on?
Let's do it.
All right, Steve. So since we're moving over to Finland for this movie, one of the things I like about all the traveling that I do and these foreign-made films is like a cultural exchange, right? You get to learn something about another country and the way they do things. So with that in mind, And also, what I know is your great appreciation for when I randomly pull out jars with black liquid in it.
Yay.
Our Christmas Spectacular is a twofer in the cocktail department.
So viewers at home, there's some mysterious mason jar. It's kind of frosty. Maybe is glowing a little bit. It's very dark.
The first thing we're going to have here is our treat of a shot.
Oh, Jesus.
Unlike a couple weeks ago when we did that big picture of stuff, I'm going to give you the option.
Okay.
I can either tell you what's in this before you drink it, or I can tell you what's in it after you drink it.
Probably better do it afterwards.
All right. Then let's pour these up.
Brandon is more of the shot guy in our little duo here. Oh my God, that's thick.
It is a dark, black, viscous fluid.
This reminds me of that Simpsons episode. Just the right amount of antifreeze. I really hate black licorice.
All right, so what that is it's called Salmiakki Koskenkorva.
Is that translated into Santa's spit?
Salmiakki Koskenkorva.
Sounded awfully Russian here.
It was sort of like a kind of a Jägermeister sort of a drink they made in Finland.
I got an idea. Got a little hint of Jägermeister there.
Finnish people love black licorice.
Okay.
Like if you look up most popular candies in Finland, it's all black licorice.
So they have no taste.
They made this drink, and it was actually banned in Finland because people loved it so much. They were drinking so much of it, and people were dying of alcohol poisoning.
Now, I will say it doesn't have a very alcoholic taste, but it is damn thick.
So what they ended up doing, since in Finland, the government controls all alcohol sales. You can only buy alcohol from the government.
So it's like Utah.
The government banned the sale of Salmiakki Koskenkorva, so people had to come up with their own plan.
As one would do.
So what they did was they took bottles of vodka and packets of these Tyrkisk Peber candies. The most popular candy in Finland is a black licorice type candy enhanced with salt and pepper.
Alrighty.
And then, so you take the candies, you mash them up, you put them in a jar of vodka, you let it sit for a couple days, and you've got homemade Salmiakki Koskenkorva.
Interesting. Thank you. Bastard. That wasn't as bad as it. Taste was not too bad. It is like a sweeter, saltier Jägermeister, and not as harsh.
Yep.
It was not harsh at all, but it is very, very thick.
Koskenkorva is an actual manufacturer of vodka in Finland. I didn't have that brand, so we actually had Salmiakki Breckenridge. I guess he wanted to make it
well, we can at least
Coloradan.
Keep it in the family that way a little bit.
Actually, Steve, related to the Salmiakki Koskenkorva,
the Santa spit.
The process of making that, where you crunch up the candy and put it in the vodka, is actually a pretty common practice in Finland, because one of their other most popular alcoholic beverages is called fisu, and that is vodka in a jar with crunched up fisherman's friend cough lozenges, which makes a minty drink that soothes away your cough.
Well, there you go.
Now, for our actual cocktail of the week, this is the Lonkero, also called the Finnish long drink. This drink was invented in 1952 for the Helsinki Olympics.
Well, there you go.
And it caught on, became so popular that it is one of Finland's most popular drinks.
Excellent.
It's a fairly straightforward recipe. We've got a couple of highball glasses filled with ice, to which we're going to add 2 ounces of gin, 2 ounces of white grapefruit juice, 3 ounces of a grapefruit-flavored soda, like Fresca, or in our case we have Squirt here, a ½ ounce of freshly squeezed lime juice, and a splash of club soda. I know you agree with me on this, and one of the things I like about this recipe is that if you want to take your home bartender entertaining game to the next level, you got to use fresh squeezed citrus.
For sure.
Like people ask me, why is this whiskey sour so good? Why are these margaritas so good? And literally all I did was take 2 seconds and juice a lime or juice a lemon.
Yep, easy peasy.
It's not rocket science.
You don't use that shit in a bottle, it sucks.
So we'll start with our 2 ounces of gin. Then grapefruit. And despite what Steve's mixologist YouTubers have to say, the folks who invented this drink said, stir it, don't shake it.
They're wrong. But we'll try it anyway.
Garnish with a grapefruit wedge. And there you have it, the Lonkero.
Lonkero. Looks good.
It does look good.
Cheers. Can you do
No, they call it a refreshing cocktail.
And mostly club soda. Let me. This is why you shake this shit.
Well, they call this a refreshing cocktail in the heat. One of the more popular...
when it's 30?
One of the more popular Christmas traditions in Finland is to visit the sauna on Christmas Day. You take your Lonkero into the sauna.
That is refreshing. I like it.
And there you have it. And with that, why don't we take these drinks over and watch this movie?
Let's do it.
This is the part where we watch the movie. All right, Steve. Well, we just finished watching Rare Exports.
That we did.
So why don't we take a couple minutes and kind of walk through the movie, and then we'll see what we thought of it. All right, so we start off at this drill site with just terrible security because these two kids are able to sneak into it fairly easily and watch what's going on.
Well, in their defense, they're in the middle of fucking nowhere in Finland. So.
That's true. This guy who was in charge of this operation gives a speech.
Kind of an Ebenezer Scroogey kind of guy.
About so he talks about the Sami people of Lapland for a minute.
Which you talked about before the movie.
Talks about how they've discovered this thing under the mountain and they're going to dig it up.
Yes.
So the kids run off and the one main character kid, what was his name? Pitari tells the other kid, Santa is buried up there.
And the older kid, Yuso, said, "Oh, you're full of shit, you baby. You believe in Santa Claus still?"
The kid goes home, and he spends a lot of time in the opening credits doing a whole lot of research into the original Santa.
He's learning a lot. He's like, oh, no.
To the next morning...
And he's quite the artist, too.
The dad is off in the shed. Kid goes and bangs on the door, and it turns out the dad runs some sort of butcher shop.
Yes.
And he's in there slaughtering a pig. The dad and the kid jump on a snowmobile and head off into the wilderness where they meet other people from the area and they have a large group meeting about trying to round up reindeer for that winter season or whatever.
Or round them up to harvest them and sell them.
But then, unfortunately, no deer show up.
Two skinny, scraggly ones, and they're what the hell?
Yeah, in their little pen. So they head off, and they discover that there are dozens, hundreds of dead reindeer.
437, I believe, Ramos said.
Okay, 437 dead reindeer.
Slaughtered by wolves, they think.
Allegedly by wolves, yeah.
They're looking around. They find the hole in the fence around the kind of the border between Finland and Russia. And they find the hole that the boys had cut so that they could go see what was going on.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when all the men think, oh, crap, the wolves came in and
the fucking Russian wolves.
That's right, fucking Russian wolves. But then we saw, Piatri's nosing around some of the reindeer carcasses, turns one over and sees a human footprint. It doesn't say anything.
And they head up to the headquarters of this drilling operation, and they find it's deserted. Pitari, or whatever his name was, says they found him.
Yes.
Without saying who him is, he just says they found him.
And all they do is look at him like, shut up, kid. They discover that there was a big-ass hole. They weren't just drilling, taking samples. They found something and they excavated it.
That's right. And there was a big asshole there.
It was huge.
So then, after they find the big ass hole, they head back to the house. And Pitari tells his buddy Yuso what he had researched about the real Santa Claus.
Yep, that they're going to steal all the kids that were bad, and they're going to beat them and eat them and whatever else they're going to do.
And Yuso still thinks he's full of shit. So then there's a scene with Dad where they have gingerbreads, which turn into a huge part of this movie.
It does. We learned that Mom had died, but Dad makes gingerbread just like Mom did.
That's nice. So then they cut back to the demolition site, whatever, and so there is like a foreman for the project, and he's on the radio with whoever is in charge. He had been given a list of rules to follow for the site. No cussing, no loud noises, no whatever. Very similar to the house elf. Or barn elf, sorry.
And, it's the rules that we learned about in the short Rare Exports safety briefing.
So the guy who is in charge of the site says into the radio, "Fuck your safety instructions."
Right.
And then heads and helmets fly in from off screen.
Yep, we basically see 6 hard hats go flying.
So then we jump back to Pitari and Rauno's house. They're having a conversation about breakfast, and Pitari says, "I gotta go outside and take a piss." So he goes outside, and he discovers that the bait, this pig's head, that his dad had left over trap was gone.
He made a wolf trap with some dug a big hole, put some punji sticks in there, covered it up, put a pig's head over top of it to try to get the wolf that was killing the reindeer.
The kid tells his dad that the bait's gone. Dad goes outside, looks in the pit, and they find a human body. Turns out the guy's not dead.
Not quite dead yet.
So the dad is kind of freaking out, thinks the guy is dead. He takes him inside his butcher shop.
Butchery.
And is sitting there trying to figure out what he's going to do with his dead body. His buddy, Piparinen, helps him take this body into the butcher shop to figure out what they're going to do with it.
Yep.
They have a conversation about, what are you going to do? And the dad's like, "I'm not doing shit. I'm going to chop this guy up, and I'm going to hide him in the woods, and nobody will ever find out."
And he's like, "Oh, by the way, Piparinen, you're in this too." So they go to, takes out the old bandsaw and is about to lop off the arm of this dead dude. And he pulls his arm back in. So that's when they realize, oh, crap, he's not dead.
That's right. The guy is not dead yet. Rauno leaves, sees a police car at a T intersection, and I don't know how far he is from the house, but fucking his kid is miles away from home. I don't know, just standing in the middle of the road,
Or at the end of the driveway, which
well,
could still be miles
yeah,
away.
because there's no one else within miles of this house. So the police pick up the kid. Dad follows the police
with his bloody butcher apron. Oh no! It was his buddy. It was the kid's buddy.
It was Yuso's dad's house.
Yeah, Yuso's house.
So the police say there's something strange going on here. All these radiant heaters are disappearing.
And hair dryers and a couple other things.
Yuso's mom lost her hairdryer.
Yeah. Meanwhile, while the adults are talking, the sheriff and the dad are talking. Petri goes looking for Yuso. No one's seen him, and they don't seem to care that they haven't seen their kid all day.
Yeah. So, the dad just said he'll be back by sundown.
He'll be back by sundown. He's off screwing around. Petri goes up to Yuso's room and finds a wicker mannequin dummy lying in Yuso's bed. Yuso's nowhere to be found. He brings it down and shows everybody. He's like, "What the hell?" Shows
the sheriff this mannequin,
yep.
And the sheriff's response is to say that Yuso is probably out trying to get laid.
Probably out chasing tail.
At that point, Rauno, the dad, tells Yuso's dad, that I don't know what his name is, he, as the best English speaker they got, now has to function as a translator between the Finnish folks and this Brian Jonathan Green.
Because the guy that they found was wearing Brian Green's coat, had his passport in it, and his walkie-talkie. So they think he's the American Brian Green that we talked about earlier, but obviously he's not.
So Yuso's dad, Rauno, and Pietari jump in the truck, and they head back outside the shed where they're keeping this mostly dead guy. Pietari tells his dad that he's been naughty. He cut that hole in the fence that resulted in the death of all the reindeer. Mm-hmm. And he tells his dad that he should be probably beaten 15 times with a switch.
I think Yuso's dad is AIMO.
Okay.
AIMO.
After confessing to his naughtiness, Pietari tells the adults that this guy who's locked up in the shed is Santa Claus.
Yes, but they heard from the dude that was telling the story in the beginning up at the drill site. They heard him calling on Brian Green's walkie-talkie, which was in the pocket of the jacket that the elf had, saying, "Hey, get Santa ready. We're bringing the chopper." And that's when they had the idea, well, shit, let's sell it. We lost $85,000 on these dead reindeer, plus the 22% VAT.
Can't avoid taxes.
Let's see if we can sell this to the Sub-Zero company and at least make our reindeer money.
They arrange a meetup with this guy who's in charge of the Sub-Zero Incorporated, and they take the real Santa in a human-sized cage that Pietari's dad just happens to have
it
in the shed, and they tell the Sub-Zero guy that they want $85,000 US for Santa Claus.
And why they didn't ask for €85,000, I don't know.
But they've got the real Santa Claus that everyone has been talking about for decades, this mythical creature. They've got him locked in a thing, and all they want is $85,000.
That's right. Not $1 million like Piperian wanted. They're like, shut the fuck up. Just take 85. And that's when the old dude's like, that's not the real Santa. That's his helper.
Just a helper.
And that's when Pitari while they're arguing outside, Pitari sees this like barn, almost like a hangar, with the number 24 on the doors, ominously.
Just like his advent calendar.
Just like his advent calendar that he had been stapling shut. Walks in and sees this huge block of ice with horns on it. It's like, holy shit, that's Santa.
That's the real Santa Claus. The Joulopukki.
Yes, that the
Yule goat.
Sami had lured onto a lake, froze him, and then buried him in that mountain.
So then at that point, this kid, Pietari, apparently decides, I am the captain now. Yep. This is my show. Interestingly, all of the adults just sort of fall in line.
Yeah.
And they say, yeah, I guess, Pietari, you're in charge here.
Yeah.
You read 4 books. They get to the hangar. They find the heaters. They find the missing kids. And they decide they're going to kill Santa. That's when they start to put the dynamite charges in the block of ice.
Yep.
And they put hundreds of them all over this block of ice.
Yeah. Looked like Pinhead from the old those old Hellraiser movies.
And then Pietari decides that the best thing to do with all of these elves that show up,
because they were attracted to the naughty kids,
is to leave them in the potato sacks.
Yep.
And put them in a big net.
Yep.
And lift them up with a helicopter.
Yep.
That Piperinen can somehow fly. So they use the kids in the net as bait to get the elves to follow this bunch of kids through the woods toward the corral that they had created for the reindeer. And this plan, everyone's on board with.
Yep. And it's going flawlessly until they discover, shit, we left the gate closed.
So then Pietari decides he's going to go down and sacrifice himself for the good of everyone else.
He's going to save all the other kids, save the town, and he just says to Pepper, and just tell my dad what I did.
So he's standing in the middle of this corral with the helicopter above him, the dozens of kids in the net above him, and the gates open, and there are hundreds of men in their 70s, naked, sprinting at him.
With pickaxes.
And their dicks hanging out. And to me, this was the scariest part of the whole movie.
Definitely. But meantime, while this is going on, right before Pitari is going to get whatever's going to happen to him, that's when they ignite the dynamite, blow up Santa, and all the elves are like, elves are like out of their spell. And they're just standing there wandering around. So
Santa is destroyed, and the elves, or whatever they're called, the Nuutipukki,
yes,
no longer have anything to do because they don't have a master anymore.
So they figure out, hey, these guys look like Santa. Let's train them and sell them.
I guess I don't know why they came to this decision.
Because they're businessmen. And they said, let's sell them. How much are we going to sell them each for? $85,000 each plus 22% VAT.
They take the 190 or so, or whatever it was, guys that they'd captured in this corral, create a training facility. The elves sit there. They watch what a mall Santa is supposed to act like.
Yep.
And they learn to do that. And then they throw the elves in crates.
They dress them as Santa.
They dress them as Santa in the red hat and the whole 9 yards.
Yep.
And then they mail them off to malls around the world.
Export to the countries, and Papayan can mysteriously fly a C-132.
Well, Piperinen, he's a
badass.
he knows.
He's my favorite character.
He knows all kinds of shit. He gets his ear bit off by the first elf guy.
Yep.
And that doesn't
faze him.
Yeah. He's just there. He's a badass. You're right.
Cool sunglasses.
He does have cool sunglasses.
Big beard. Looks like a Viking. He's the only one in the whole movie that looks like a Viking. But no, and it just stopped with them. They all of a sudden have this successful business model, and Bob's your uncle. Everything's great.
Yep, and they got their $85,000 per Santa.
Yep, so $16.8 million is what they figure.
Plus the 22% VAT.
Plus the government's cut.
Now that we have finished the movie, what's your rating on this?
This is a top shelf. This is well done. It's well acted. A little bit odd there at the end when the kid takes over, but that kind of leads back to what we talked about prior, that the director has this, we should listen to kids because they're more perceptive. But I liked it. It's well done. It's well shot. The special effects are good. It is subtitles pretty much the whole damn movie.
More fucking subtitles.
Yeah. You could definitely tell it had a bigger budget than what we're used to. How he begged and borrowed and stole to get a $2 million budget after doing 17 minutes worth of internet short movies. Well done, dude. Yeah,
and I do think the 1.3 million or whatever on the budget seems like a lot.
1.9.
1.9.
It does seem like a lot.
It seems like a lot because, we watched a couple of other movies from that area, and the budgets were a lot lower. You would think that, I don't know, maybe the actors make less, maybe the production costs are lower. So I feel like
maybe Finland's more expensive than Norway.
Maybe, but I feel like a nearly $2 million budget is a lot, for that area.
Did appear to be in the middle of nowhere.
Well, yeah, there was not another soul for miles.
No.
And I do agree with you. I probably give this movie a top shelf, kind of for different reasons than what I said about Dead Snow.
Okay.
Where it was super entertaining to me with the blood and the guts and the whatever. This movie didn't have any of that.
Yeah, it was pretty tame as far as that goes.
But it was a really well-made movie. This is one that you could actually watch and be like, well, the people who made this movie knew what the hell they were doing.
Yeah, and it's surprising with so few directing and writing credits that the brothers have who did this. He's done 3 feature-length movies, I think is what I said.
Yeah.
And both of them have been really good that we've seen.
Yeah. Definitely a top shelf type movie, but actually for the quality of the movie, not the random shit that makes me laugh.
But they lacked in blood, guts, and intestines. They made up for in old slongs.
There were so many middle-aged Finnish cocks in this movie that I didn't know what to do with it all.
And it was a nice nod to old school hockey with the old Jaffa helmet that Petri was wearing around us as to guard against the evil Santas coming after him. So.
I did find it a little weird that it got from at the hangar where no one really knew what was going on to suddenly Pietari is just this cocky little kid who decides I'm taking control of everything and everyone will listen to me.
I believe we call that the hero's journey.
I don't know. But it wasn't much of a journey. It was, well, I guess for him.
Maybe they were running out of budget.
Because they did really condense that down.
Yeah, it did that. I suppose that would be a knock on the movie. Is that when the switch flipped for action, it flipped damn quick.
Yeah, because the first maybe 75% of the movie was fairly slow moving. It was good. It set the story, it set the characters, it did all that.
Had some suspense. It had.
But then jumping from this sort of kind of backgroundy scenario to we are now in the shit right now was was pretty quick. But yeah, good movie. I'd watch it again for sure.
Yeah, so definitely check this one out. This is worth an hour and a half of your time for sure. And I would even put it's worth an hour and 45 minutes of your time because watch the 2 shorts that go with it. It all kind of works together. I would watch the movie first and watch the shorts. And again, like we said, this one is available on pretty much any streaming service you could think of. Well worth your time.
Yeah, for sure. And it really is kind of an interesting, I mean, it's a different cultural background. So, whatever, the story of Santa, it's interesting to see that sort of stuff from someone else's perspective.
And I think this would be, it's not as family appropriate as the last one we watched, but you could sit down as a family and watch this. And
for sure.
Not really gross too many people out. Maybe some giggling.
So then, I guess the question is, if a person were to sit down to watch this movie, how much of the Salmiakki Koskenkorva should they drink while they're watching it?
None. The Lonkero was very tasty, so I would give the Lonkero a 2 thumbs up. The other one was fine. It was I've experienced it. I've broadened my horizons.
So the Lonkero was good.
Yes.
The movie was good.
Yes.
The Salmiakki was
maybe an acquired taste.
But you know what they say, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
That's true.
Well, I guess that will do it for tonight's episode. We do appreciate everyone tuning in and listening to all this.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and maybe we'll get one more out before the end of the year. Not sure.
Like I said, we do appreciate everyone who tunes in.
Yep.
And if you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that 5-star rating. And with that,
I got nothing more to say.
All right, well, I'm Brandon.
I'm Steve.
Take care, everybody, and stay fresh, cheese balls.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
The real star of this movie is Old Man Finnish Penises.